I'm Noreen and welcome to my kitchen and another episode of What's for Dinner. Today, pork scallopini. Yes, that's right, pork scallopini. Traditionally, you've probably heard of this with veal, maybe even chicken. But tonight we're going to go ahead and use pork because I had some on hand that I had thought out and needed to use up. And I thought this was the perfect dish to share with you tonight. So let's go see how this all comes together. Alright, we're going to go over our ingredients and then we're going to head on over to the stove and we're going to make this super fast and delicious meal. Pork scallopini, maybe not the most traditional thing you've ever heard of. Scallopini basically refers to the cut of meat, not the meat itself. People make chicken scallopini, people make veal scallopini. Today we're making pork scallopini. I accidentally took some pork chops out of the freezer. I thought they were chicken breasts, and you know, when they're frozen, sometimes they're kind of hard to tell apart. So I set them aside and I got chicken breasts for a different meal, but I thought I want to do something totally different with these than we're used to, whether it's pan fried or just, you know, cooked with soup or something to make them fall apart, or just pan seared. I want to do something different. So we're going to make scallopini, which I realized I had never made for you guys, and it's super easy and it's definitely a quick weeknight meal. So what I have is about 2 pounds of pork loin that I had cut into chops. They were fairly thin chops, but I ran my knife through them again to kind of butterfly them, and then I pounded them with, I have this like mini iron skillet that I use as a meat mallet because I don't have a metal meat mallet. So that's about 2 pounds. You can see these are super thin. Super thin. And then what you're basically going to do is we're going to dredge these in some flour. So I have a half a cup of flour. We're going to season that up with some Italian seasoning, and this is my homemade Italian seasoning. And then we're going to kind of sear those off in a hot skillet with olive oil and butter. So I have a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. I have 2 segments of butter here. One's going to be used for the frying, one's going to be used for the sauce. After we cook the meat, we're going to make this amazing sauce. Now, traditionally, it's made with white wine. Rick and I are not big fans of wine in our food, so I'm opting to use chicken stock. You can use white wine. If you do, use half a cup. I have a cup of chicken stock here, and that's just made with chicken bouillon powder. I also have the juice of 1 lemon. I have way more parsley than I need for this recipe. We're going to use a couple of tablespoons. And I have 2 cloves of garlic minced, and I have about a half of a very large Vidaia onion that I have chopped extremely fine. I kind of want these to melt into the sauce. And I have 1 pound of cremini mushrooms that are sliced. That's it. Not a whole lot of ingredients. A lot of these things you may have on hand. I actually only had to run to the store for mushrooms and parsley. And next we're going to go ahead and get ready. We're going to dredge the pork in some seasoned flour. And then we're going to go over to the stove and we will clear this and we'll be right back. All right, we've got our all-purpose flour. It's about a half a cup. You use whatever you need to get the job done, basically. This isn't a place where I can give you a specific amount, but I'm using a half a cup. I also added 2 teaspoons of my homemade Italian seasoning. If you have not seen how I make that, I will leave a link in the information box down below the video, as well as a card that will pop up on the upper right-hand portion of the screen, and you can go ahead and click through. It will take you to a separate page. I'm also going to add a teaspoon of salt in here because I do not have salt in my seasoning. Now, if you don't want the salt in there, then leave it out. Not a problem. But not all of that salt is going to end up on the meat, and we want to make sure that we want to be a little heavy-handed with the seasoning when we put it in a dredge. Now we just want to go ahead and pop it in there on both sides, shake it off, and keep on going. I'm going to go ahead and get these all dredged with flour, and then we will meet you over at the stove and we will start constructing this awesome pork scallopini. All right, our butter and our olive oil have been melted in the skillet, and I have this over medium-high heat. And now all you're going to do is you're going to take your dredged pieces of pork loin and cook them in that butter and olive oil on both sides until they're golden brown. And you may have to do this in batches. You don't want to crowd the pan, so that's about where I'm going to leave mine. Now, I did want to mention too that I've used pork loin chops because that's what I had available. Of course, these are boneless. You can also do this with a pork tenderloin by simply cutting it in 1-inch pieces and then pounding it with a meat mallet until it's thin. And I do that between 2 pieces of plastic wrap. So what I'm going to do is allow these to cook. I'll bring you back when my last batch is ready to come out. I'm going to take them out and put them on this lid here, and when they're finished, and then I'm just going to keep batching it out. I should have to do this 3 times because I think that's how many pieces of meat I have. So when these are ready, I'll be back and I'll show you what happens next. All right, this is my last batch, and like I said, you just want to cook these until they're golden brown and a little crispy looking. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our onion and our garlic to the pan. Always add your onion first. This is going to help bring that fond up off the bottom of the pan, and then you'll get all that brown goodness. Just give it a stir. Then we're going to add our mushrooms. Give that a little bit of a toss. And then what I want you to do is I want you to hit this with just a splash of that chicken stock, because it's going to help to deglaze the pan a little, and it's going to help get those mushrooms starting to release their liquid, and it's going to cook down a little bit faster. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to hit this with that much, like a tablespoon of parsley. We're going to add a little bit more a little later. So now I want you to kind of walk away from this for a few minutes, at least 5, and let those mushrooms do what they're going to do. All right, our mushrooms have sauteed down just a little more, and they're almost ready to go. But what I want to do now is I want to add a little more stock. Now, we like sauce in our family, so we're going to add a little more sauce, a little more stock to the pan so that this gets good and saucy. And that's just my chicken bouillon powder that didn't dissolve in the bottom. Go ahead and put that in there. I'm going to hit this with a little bit of lemon juice. That's just the juice of 1 lemon, so it's about 2 tablespoons. Now this is to replace any wine that I didn't put in here, to give it that little bit of bite. Just that little brightness is really going to lift the flavors here. Now we're also going to add 2 more tablespoons of butter. And don't add the dish, because that won't taste good. Won't cook down. It won't cook down at all. Glass is just awful that way. Now we're going to bring this back to a simmer. We're going to let this cook down just a little bit. I would say another 5 minutes. That butter's going to give everything a beautiful silky smoothness. And before we walk away from it, what I want to do is I want to put the meat back in. So we're just going to nestle these down in here, just like that. Give everything a good zhuzh. I'm going to hit this with a little more parsley. And then what I'm going to do is walk away from it for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, this has finished simmering. I did turn it down before we turned the camera on, but it's ready to be served, and the sauce has thickened up a bit, and it's absolutely outstanding. You're gonna love this one. So we're gonna meet you back over the counter, and we'll fix your plate of this delicious, quick and easy weeknight pork scallopini. All right, there you have it. There is your pork scallopini. I can't tell you how delicious this smells. It was so easy to put together, and I know you're gonna love it. So, are you ready to taste this?
I have to.
You have to. And a mushroom, of course.
Wow.
Yes?
Yeah.
So that is how you make delicious, quick, and easy pork scallopini. You got all the stuff you need in the house to make this. I promise. You saw. You make this, your family's going to fall in love with you all over again. I promise. If you like this recipe, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And if you're not already, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the real food for real people, real easy recipes that we present every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on our YouTube channel and straight from our kitchen. I want to say thank you for joining us today and watching me while I cook this delicious pork scallopini. I hope you give it a try, and I hope you love it. And until next time, I'll see ya. And a ruby red grapefruit one. And if you don't want to add that much syrup, then don't. Simple. And then I'm just going to pour the beer over. We'll get a pretty pink beer because I know he likes that